Who's also with governance. So she submitted a portfolio for this job, and it was so cute. She submitted this.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April 15 meeting of the Ann Arbor City Council. If you're able, please rise and join us for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would our clerk please call the roll of council?
Councilmember Dish?
Here.
Councilmember Harrison?
Here.
Councilmember Song?
Here.
Councilmember Watson?
Here.
Councilmember Medina?
Here.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin?
Here.
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Councilmember Iyer? Here. Councilmember Ackman?
Here.
Councilmember Briggs?
Here.
Councilmember Cornell? Here. We have a quorum.
May I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda? Moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion of the agenda. All in favor? All opposed? The agenda is approved. We have an introduction today for the Ann Arbor Area Transportation Authority. Mr. Carpenter, you have the con.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be back with you this evening. I just have a few operational updates from the ride to provide to you, and then I'll let you have your evening back to yourself. So a couple of things. First of all, I want to start by thanking this body for your unanimous support of a resolution, I believe on the 18th of March, asking the Michigan Department of Transportation to work with the ride in formulating a transit scenario as a possible solution as part of the US 23 corridor study. Thank you for that. We really appreciated it. Happy to report that our teams have met once. We had an initial brainstorming, characterize it as a productive preliminary discussion, but these sorts of relationships take some time to develop, so I will keep you informed about how that progresses, but we're off to a good start. So thank you. Second, some of you may recall the ride won support from voters in August of 2022 for an expansion to public transit services. I'm happy to give you an update on that. We've already moved some of those things operationally, and a couple more are starting soon. So on May the 6th, we will be launching the new Route 104, the Washtenaw Express. This is the Ann Arbor to Ypsilanti, downtown to downtown express route. That was a big part of that proposal. It's going to dramatically reduce travel time between the two downtowns and effectively bring the two communities closer together, making commuting, education trips, or even just shopping that much easier for folks on both sides of the corridor. So we're very excited about that service. Again, we'll start on May the 5th. Quick update on our environmental sustainability work. We are well into our work on zero-emission bus propulsion. We've chosen fuel cell electric hydrogen-powered buses as the preferred mode of propulsion for us going forward, along with latest generation hybrid diesel-electric technology, so that we don't have to wait for the perfection of the hydrogen economy to begin reducing emissions. We're happy to report we have already begun funding requests. We have earmarks in to Senator Peters. We'll be looking forward to submitting one to Congresswoman Dingell, and we are presently putting the finishing touches on a very large, tens of millions of dollars proposal to the Federal Transit Administration that should be going in before the end of the month. So we're on our way. And then finally, an update. About 10 years ago, we tore down and rebuilt the Blake Transit Center here in downtown Ann Arbor. We are finally moving to do the same thing for the city of Ypsilanti. We have opened public consultation on the environmental and design phase for the new Ypsilanti Transit Center in downtown Ypsilanti. And we will be hosting our board meeting in May over there just to make sure the public over there can come and speak to us. And our board meeting here in Ann Arbor will be this Thursday, 6:30 at the downtown library top floor. I invite anyone interested to stop by. So thank you very much for your time. Please have a great meeting.
Thank you very much. We now have the city administrator's presentation of the proposed fiscal year 2025 budget. Mr. Tahoney, you have the con.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. It's my pleasure to be here to present to you the FY25 budget. As you know, this is year 2 of the biennial, so typically in year 2, there's not a lot of major changes, major sweeps, major alterations of direction. Some of what you will hear me touch on tonight, you got a preview of a year ago, but there are some updates that we are happy to provide for you. The theme that we've chosen for this evening is advancing as we reset. And as I move through, it'll be obvious what we mean. We are presenting an all-funds budget of $563 million, $583,467. Our general fund is just south of $140 million. You will recall that from a style perspective, mine is I'm not going to stand here and just read you a list of numbers. I'm going to talk about what we're going to do with the money, and the details will be contained in the written document. As required by law, this budget is balanced and there are no proposed service cuts. Reset means just that. We've got to take stock and we've got to make changes. The next slide illustrates exactly where we are. So we have in this budget funding to do the sanitary sewer comprehensive planning process, stormwater comp plan, the water distribution comp plan, the non-union compensation study, the urban tree canopy assessment, and as you know, our overall comp plan is underway, which was addressed last year. And that expenditure was $700,000. When you put all of these plans together, we are investing $1.7 million in plans. It stands to reason that if we're doing that, we're not going to come out on the other end and nothing changes. We're not going to come out on the other end and do exactly what we've been doing in the manner that we've been doing it. We are not aware of what the outcomes will be, and so the fundamental decision that we have to reach first is, should we try to pause everything as much as possible and wait on the planning processes to be complete and then move forward? The administration's position is we should not do that. And so as we huddle, we believe that we need to advance, and this budget is designed to illustrate how we propose to do that. It begins with roads and infrastructure. When I got here 2.5 years ago, the first thing I heard, and heard loudly, was the roads are in bad shape. So we put together, with your support, a road bond to start to address that issue. We are about to enter year 3 of the road bond initiative. During the first 2 years of the project, we surfaced or improved 51 streets or 104 lane miles of road. As I said a year ago, in order to do this work, it is inconvenient. So I'm saying again to the community, you're about to be inconvenienced, because when the construction starts, it redirects traffic, it gets in your way, there's fewer lanes, it takes you longer. But on the other end of it, we will see the improvement in the infrastructure and the roads that we need to see. This is a preview of the year 3 road bond. Ward 1, Ashley from Kingsley to Miller. the East Medical Center Bridge, Ward 2, Aberdeen Drive from Heather to Arlington, Independence Boulevard in Ward 3, Hill Street in Ward 3 and 4, 5th to Church, 7th Street from Sile Church to Delaware, Greenway Drive in Ward 4, Miller Avenue and Saunders Crescent in Ward 5. Simply put, it is imperative that the road bond touch all 5 wards, and it will. We are also going to conduct an assessment of the Barton Dam. You heard some conversation about that when we had the work session a few months ago. We're investing $120,000 out of this budget in order to get that done. Taking care of our infrastructure is expensive. It is time-consuming. We don't know what the assessment will tell us, but we will address it on the back end. Referencing the water treatment plant, so let's look at it from the big picture first. We talked about this a couple of years ago. This plant was built circa 1938, somewhere around there. In order to replace it, it is an expenditure of in excess of $100 million. Even if you wanted to, you could not replace it all at once. It requires several steps on the front end and several steps to actually execute the creation of the new plant. In this budget, we have invested money to operate the pilot, because one of the steps is you make a pilot operation and you use that as your model to see what's going to be required when the plant is actually built. We will be focusing on data collection. We will also be using the pilot to help us determine what kind of technology is necessary when the new plant is actually built. You will recall this is a pivotal element of our legislative strategy. We hope to secure funding from the federal infrastructure bill in order to make it happen. But again, that will happen in phases over the next several years. Last year, you heard us talk about the election center. But when we were talking about it, it was a real estate transaction. We needed to acquire a facility that would allow us to ensure that a pivotal element of democracy is preserved. So we bought a building, essentially bare bones. With this budget, we are inserting the operational cost of that facility into the budget. What we are still waiting on is funding from legislatively directed discretionary funding to do the build-out. We won't know about the status of that until later in the year. As you can see, staff is already working in the building. This is also the future home of CTN. With regards to OSI, we're moving into an additional year of having the sustainability millage available. One of the key elements that takes place within OSI, so they will seed an idea, they will investigate it, they will cultivate it, and they will seek to expand it. And that's what will happen in FY25, starting with more strides or more utilization of geothermal. You cannot do geothermal within Washtenaw County without having county approval, county regulation. I would like to publicly thank County Administrator Greg Dill for his support, because for us, geothermal is something that we want to apply in multiple parts of the community, attached to multiple projects. And so we needed to understand from the county where we could do that, what the rules of engagement look like. The staff has worked through that, and we believe that we can see it utilized in various parts of our city. We expect to break ground for the Wheeler Center Solar Park if everything falls as we hope That will take place in September, and we'd love for it to coincide with the visit of the Tubigen delegation that's coming here as part of the bicentennial. OSI will also be expanding their resilience efforts, again, trying to do that in more than just a single neighborhood. We do expect in FY25 to reach our goal of 10,000 trees, planting trees on private property to enhance our equity and resilience. That is really a major milestone for our city to be able to reach it and really reach it pretty quickly. And we've had help from other partners. We've had a lot of support in the community. It is a good project for the city to work on with the neighborhoods. And it is a prime example of meeting our sustainability goals will come in the city working in partnership with the public that it serves. We are also proposing to begin an EV charger discount program later in the year. That will be available for both commercial and multi-unit developments. This is an additional encouragement for people to consider EV vehicles, again, furthering the sustainability goals that we've set for the community. Customer service. We have talked about this some more. With this budget, we want to make a major move towards actually addressing what we've been hearing. It doesn't fit simply one part of the government. It relates to a lot of the outward-facing work that we do in serving the public. We have decided that we're moving all in on customer service with this budget. That will not occur with a single action in a single department. It will require several actions taken collectively in order for us to move the needle. There are 4 primary fronts that we need to address: establishing standards, which we have done through work with our Office of Organizational Equity and HR with the support of the executive staff. We needed to establish standards that we will hold ourselves to for getting back to people within a timely framework. And the standard needs to be consistent across the government. It doesn't mean we can solve your issue. It doesn't mean we have the money to address what you're contacting us about. But we at least need to acknowledge that we've heard what you're asking us and that we're working on it. We also need to provide training for staff. Know what the standards are, understand better ways to implement customer service within the area of your responsibility. Customer service has to be part of everyone's portfolio. It's not bottom up, it's not top down. It's every person that works for the city of Ann Arbor. The third prong of this approach has to do with reducing process time. Simply put, people tell us it takes you too long for me to work through whatever your process is in order for me to get what I'm trying to get. They also tell us that there don't appear to be enough of you to address my needs. So reducing process time and expanding our capacity to perform is something that we've talked about a lot and worked on as a team. We are by design a lean organization. Nothing I'm saying tonight changes that. We will never be at 1,000 employees again. We don't see that the numbers indicate that's possible. But we can be smarter about what we're doing, more intentional about what we're doing, and bring bench strength, if you will, where appropriate. So I'm going to walk through what that looks like in FY25. All of these are not large financial transactions. Some are virtually inexpensive, but taken collectively, we think we can move the needle that needs to be moved. starting with purchasing tablets for the assessors. Why is that important? Today, assessors are out in the field conducting inspections. They can only do so many because they have to get back to City Hall to upload their information. By having the tablet, you can upload the information from the field, removing the need for you to come back. So you can get more inspections done each day. Solid waste route optimization. We haven't done this in over a decade. We believe that doing it now will allow us to shorten some of the routes that we're using in our solid waste pickup. By doing the route optimization, we will be able to finish the routes faster. It will allow us to better balance the workload. It will allow us to deliver a better service than we're doing today. We will be adding temp staff for fall compost collections, and we're going to be adding 3 entry-level planners. So in the planning department, we have 2 people that will be retiring. When they leave, if I remember correctly, 57 years of institutional knowledge walks out the door with them. We're going to replace them with entry-level planners, fresh perspective. We have to be patient as they build capacity, but we think having 3 new people to address what we need in the planning area will, in the long run, render a better service. A lot of what I'm talking about within this space will not be charged against the general fund. We have other funds where a lot of this activity is relevant, and so we will charge these positions to the appropriate funding. And the CFO is sitting in the audience to make sure that we do that. Permit liaison. Going back probably a year and a half, there was a lot of conversation about ombudsman. We were asked to study putting an ombudsman in the government. We brought in an EMU fellow to do research on it. We looked at ombudsman's programming in other cities with other types of organizations. And the conclusion is we do not need an ombudsman for the total government, because in many areas it would simply be duplicative. You're simply adding another layer of bureaucracy. Where we have heard and where we have seen that we need to do a much better job as it relates to permitting. So this person will be called a permit liaison. They will help to unclog the stops. They will help to run down the issues associated with obtaining a permit. They will be able to help with hand-holding if hand-holding is necessary. They will be able to go to various offices to ask, how can we work through these issues? This will help us to move through the permitting process a little faster than we're doing now. We're also proposed to add a plan reviewer for private development in the engineering section. Again, trying to get more reviews done, more inspections done, trying to provide better customer service. We want to add a trade inspector. Again, more inspections, more reviews, increasing our capacity. We also propose to upgrade our utility billing software. We have 25 years worth of data, and we need to move to a web-based solution for this. And this particular item will allow us to do it. Will help us to be better transparent, to be able to get more information faster, and it's simply a modernization of the function. We are also going to be contracting with a third-party consultant. Again, more inspections, more reviews, all in the effort of getting people through our process more quickly. We're also going to be adding an inspector for dangerous buildings. It was interesting to me to learn that in a city like Ann Arbor, we have enough dangerous buildings to need a person to deal with it, but we do. And so we're going to address that. We also are proposing to add a zoning coordinator. So when you take all of the things that I've just said together, you can see that there's a major effort being made by the administration to be more customer friendly, to be more customer service sensitive, if you will. And we are not done. We also need to do a mindset review. This is my phrase. It's not, something we found in a book. This is the way I put things. We need to determine or revisit, are we here to default to no? Or are we here to facilitate getting to yes? Fundamental question. We have to have a heart-to-heart with ourselves on our role, on how we go about it, on what we see as our charge, on are we in fact acting in the best way possible to facilitate the direction that the City Council has given us. Simply put. Customer service, snow operations. We heard you. You were not happy with how we handled snow last year. We're in a climate, I'll just say it's unpredictable. We don't have evidence that we're going to have double-digit snow events every winter. In fact, it seems to be trending opposite that. But when we do have a snow incident, it's unpredictable how it's going to behave. So the operational plan that we've had to date is that we will function primarily or initially on addressing primary arteries. We require to do that. You got to be able to get to hospitals. You got to be able to get to certain places. It just must happen. So our theory, our working theory in terms of operations has been clear the primaries, move into the locals. That's fine unless the storm evolves in a manner that requires you to retrace your steps. So if you have to go back through the primaries a second or third time, it delays your ability to get into the neighborhoods. And so people get frustrated. This budget will invest $500,000 to contract with the private sector so that they can start on the local streets initially while we are clearing primaries. We will join the fight in the neighborhoods as soon as we get the primaries under control. So they will work on local streets and refuge island snow removal. We are also investing $100,000 in a piece of equipment to clear snow out of bike lanes.
Oh, yes.
Free coffee with that one, Mayor, apparently. I've heard a lot about that. We were a little surprised at the cost of it, but it clearly is necessary and something that we need for community service, and we're happy to be able to do it. Expanding functionality. This is way in the weeds, but I'm mentioning it to illustrate the depths that we have gone to think through how can we do a better job for those we are here to serve. So the equipment that you see in the picture, I'll just say historically equipment like that might have served a primary function. We are now gearing up for it to do 4 things. It'll be a dump body, it'll be a salt spreader, we'll be able to do liquid tanks on it, which means that's what you use for pre-treating before the snow actually falls. And we are buying a 9-foot wide wing plow. So when we do clear a pathway, it'll clear a lot wider area than we have the ability to do now. We do all these things, but we need help from the community. So we're going to ask, we're going to insist, you have to move your cars. You simply cannot do curb to curb. If there's 4 cars here and then there's a gap and then there's 2 more cars, you got to clear it out. So we can do curb-to-curb clearance. Where we are about to go a little bit contrary to our values, and if you want to be mad at anyone, be mad at me. What we do now, we put salt at intersections on locals. We don't necessarily spread the same way because we have concerns about the environmental usage of salt. Can't have it both ways. We spread salt more, people will get the desired impact that they want, but it means spreading salt more. We are proposing that we need to do that in concert with these other steps that we're taking to allow us to manage the snow events in the manner that the public is requesting. We got to see how it goes. A lot of details to come with this, but I'm giving you sort of the big picture direction that we want to go in FY25. Advancing as we reset. We need to get in position to determine what our options are as it relates to utilities. And in order to do that, we do not currently have enough information to make intelligent decisions. That requires the Phase 2 study. It's been talked about previously, it's been debated, it's been advocated for. The consultants that we hired advise that it'll cost us $1 million. We are proposing with this budget to spend $1 million to do the study. And then decisions can be made on the direction that the policymakers wants us to move in. In order to do it, and it is expensive, I did not propose to take $1 million out of the fund balance. I did not propose to take $1 million out of the things that I'm talking to you about. If I did, then some of the things I've mentioned would not be possible. We are working on a transaction. I've been in discussions for a little bit of time with the developer that will lead to an air rights transaction. I have been informed that air rights transactions are new to the city of Ann Arbor government. They are not new in the world of development. So what it means is that if the city has a piece of property and a development wants to infringe upon the space above the property that we own, that has a value. So you go 25 feet and above and you assess what that value is. We were approached about a development at 616 South Forest that needs air rights. They made us an offer of $1.2 million. We hired an independent appraiser to assess the value of the air rights, and the appraisal matched exactly what the offer is. That doesn't always happen, but it happened in this case. So I am proposing taking $1 million out of the 1.2 to pay for the Phase 2 study. If the Phase 2 study comes back cheaper than $1 million, then we will have more money and I will come back to you, because we still need to address our lack of an EOC, which you heard me say at our study session. A week or 2 weeks ago, I guess, you passed 4 resolutions setting out a broad direction for the government to get us to do some things that we haven't really been addressing collectively over a period of time. One of those resolutions called for the creation of an Office of Economic Development. With this budget, we are proposing to establish an Economic Development Director and an Economic Development Coordinator position. This is an area that both John and I are very passionate about. I want to commend Deputy Administrator Fournier for his work on this area. But our jobs are multifaceted. We do not have the capacity to devote every single waking hour to economic growth. And if you're going to move the needle, you got to have that. Cities that do it have that ability. Hiring someone that gets up every single day with a singular purpose will allow us to move closer to the direction that you've given us. The pictures indicate in simple terms what that is. Housing at all levels and getting in a better position for land acquisition. We will never be competitive dollar for dollar with the university, but at least we can be more aggressive than we currently are in trying to expand and protect the economic base that drives the operations of the city. I will say before we even get to it, a truly skilled, experienced economic development director is not cheap. They can kind of pick what they want and they're going to tell you what it has to be. So when we come back to you, we'll look forward to bringing somebody on board to help out. Then we have a series of contingent launchings. These are things that will be impacted by success in obtaining funding. It will impact the schedule of the project. The Conservancy is very passionate about the Tree Line Trail. Tree Line Trail is a big vision. It'll require 10 years to do everything that's envisioned. Right now, they are focusing on acquisition. We have been supporting their efforts to secure a $2 million acquisition piece of funding to advance it. We don't talk a lot the train station, but the growth that we're seeing in Ann Arbor necessitates that we reimagine what the train station is. In order to do that, it's rebuilding Depot Street at Depot Street, not at another site. But we need state or federal help to do that, and so it's on the list. The first step would be to secure a planning grant. These projects take an awfully long time. Even if you had all the money, you couldn't go as fast as you would like. So it's about more than money. In this case, it is about process, because the federal government dictates what the process needs to be. So we will all have to be patient. The election center build out, I've already mentioned. Barton Pond embankment is something that we will have to address. It will be a significant CIP expenditure, but something that we are looking for other governmental support in order to be able to do. The ELC, see, I keep mentioning that. I figure if I keep saying it out loud, that it'll happen. At some point during FY25, we're going to make it happen. But we also need to make happen a new fire station number 4. During these storm environments that I've talked about, we have experienced fire stations that lose power, fire stations that do not have sufficient alternate backup power, making them have to move to another firehouse to function, which increases your response time. And when you're responding from within the fire service, seconds matter. The other thing that has been really grating for me, and you heard me address this a year ago, and I'm going to do it again tonight. The fire service is one of the professions that was slow to accept and to recognize that they would be better if women were allowed to be part of it. So the fire stations were built without the idea that women would stay there. So we have fire stations that do not have appropriate quarters for female firefighters. That is unacceptable. You're only going to fix it when you build a new firehouse, because then you can program all of that in. So one way or another, I'm going to come back to you in FY25 with some plan to get fire station number 4 done and the EOC done. This year, can't speak for what's going to happen in the future, but I will say this year probably burst any bubble that anyone had that marijuana excise tax money was going to provide this major boost of revenue for the city. Nothing has happened to proven that that's true. We get very little information about what's going on with it. We have extended the hours so people can buy whatever they want to buy over a longer period of time. And that has resulted in an increase of $125,000. We'll take it, but you cannot make major budget decisions on that kind of money. So that's why I put coins in a jar to illustrate the point. So, last year, I was really struggling to learn all the organizations and figure out how all the pieces fit. So I didn't program any money. Well, I've been here extra year now. So tonight I have programmed some additional money. Yesterday we had a milestone occurrence within our community. The groundbreaking for the Catherine Street development. On the surface, it might not seem as important to some people, but for people who look like me, who have roots in this city, it means a lot. So there's money in this budget, not one time, ongoing, to support the community space at Catherine Street. Because if we say we're going to grow as a community that values diversity, equity, and inclusion, then we got to act like it. And that's what this investment means. We've heard from the shelters. They struggle every winter, no matter how much money we give them. We have winter cold, we might not have snow, but we have cold, which I don't like, but it's cold. We need to find a way to better support the winter shelters. So this is a sort of deft handling of being creative with the money. We met with Dan, and what we've come up with, we've asked them, can you find a way to fold in an element of substance abuse support in the winter shelter? And we can do that. So the $150,000 will represent helping that person, but also providing funding for the shelter itself. And I want to set this up where the contract is running from like October to April. Marty, wanting to keep me out of prison, says that's within the rules. So that's what we're going to do. Wanting to leverage the money, I have formulated a partnership with Michigan Medicine. I won't bore you with the details, but essentially we want to provide support for people that are struggling with substance abuse issues from the time they're leaving the hospital, if they have to be hospitalized, to get settled back in their ambulatory setting. That's what the 181 is for. Thanks to Dr. Hilliard for his help. And even with doing all of that, there is $1 million untouched, left for you to consider what to do with it. So, thanks to Marty and the finance team, the executive team, the staff of the government for working with us to develop FY25's budget. The question process will be, as always, you need to send your questions to Kim Busselmeyer, Marty Pashon, Sarah Higgins, and me, and each week we'll give you back answers. Everyone will see all the questions, and everyone will see all of the answers. I'm pausing because when you do all this with no notes, you gotta run back mentally to make sure you haven't forgotten anything of significance. I think that's everything. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We now come to public comment reserve time. Public comment reserve time is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to council and the community about matters of municipal interest. To speak at public comment reserve time, one needs to have signed up in advance by contacting our city clerk. Speakers in all instances will have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk or the time clock will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time has expired. When your time has expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Our first speaker today is Alan Newman.
Hello, I'm Alan Newman. I live at 2577 Newport Road. I'm on the board of Avalon Housing, and in 2017, one of the tenants there, who had spent 13 and a half years in prison, wanted to form an organization to help people return. I volunteered to help, and I've been its chair since its inception. I've also gotten on the state board that helps people return from incarceration, Offender Success. When I began, I didn't know anything about criminal justice. I know a lot now, and it's absolutely awful. The system is just wrong. In 2017, Washtenaw County had the worst recidivism rate in the state. We were 50% higher than the state average. A Brighter Way has 8 employees. Only 1 has not been incarcerated. The rest have been incarcerated for a total of 144 years. They are all trained on peer-to-peer, trauma-informed counseling. If you drive down Washtenaw Avenue near Brockman, you will see a townhouse with a shed next to it. In that house lives a person who was incarcerated for 47 years. There's a person in there that's been incarcerated for 40 years, and there's a 19-year-old man. In that shed is a snowblower and a lawnmower, and those people clear the neighbors' sidewalks in the winter. They mow their lawns in the summer. So what do? We help people meet their quality of life goals. And our people, many of them, are financially fragile. And emergency funding is critical. And with your support, you're funding first and last month's rent, security deposits. We just had a member who's got a good job and his car broke down. He has to have a car for his job. With your help, we were able to loan him $5,000. So I greatly appreciate what you've done, and I personally want to thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brian Geiriger.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor Taylor. My name is Brian Geringer. I am a lifelong Washtenaw County resident. I'm currently living in Ypsilanti, but I was born, raised, and educated in Ann Arbor. I would like to introduce myself as the incoming Executive Director for Ann Arbor for Public Power. Thank you. It is my 15th day on the job for A2P2, and what is already abundantly clear to me is that this organization and everyone in it is driven, dedicated, and passionate about our shared goal of creating a publicly owned municipal electric utility in Ann Arbor, one that is connected to the regional grid and supplies all of the city's electricity needs, one that is reliable, affordable, democratically controlled, and sourced from 100% renewable energy. It is also my understanding that municipalization is simply the only way to achieve the A20 goals right here in Ann Arbor. I was extremely heartened by the April 4th town hall featuring OSI Director Dr. Stoltz and A2P2 President Woodring. That event had an air of collaboration that I am excited to see continue throughout the following months and years. So I come here tonight hopeful and looking forward to building relationships with each one of you. We are not asking for you to sign on to the municipal electric utility today or tomorrow, though you are more than welcome to if you'd like. But rather we are simply asking you to ensure that the proposed Sustainable Energy Utility Charter Amendment is designed so that it leaves the door open for future synergy with a municipal grid that distributes power to the whole city. I'm also very pleased and want to thank you all, as well as the administrator, that the Phase 2 feasibility study will be funded in the fiscal year 25 budget, and I trust it will be so with the honest intent to pave the way for the possibility of full municipalization. This is what the people of Ann Arbor, who are sick and tired of overpriced, wildly unreliable, dirty, coal-powered electricity, deserve. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Adam Grant.
Hello, Council. I ask you to use the same scope that the city administrator was talking about with looking forward when you listen to what I have to say. My name is Adam Grant. I work in Ypsilanti. I'm the executive director of A Brighter Way. And I'm here to give voice to the need for rising hope for housing and initiatives like it. Given the fact that this is funded from the marijuana excise tax, though it doesn't bring in as much as we'd like, it is a form of painless giving for something that may otherwise have been a hard lift from general funds. I want to share something with you that I don't think anyone else can in this situation. Something that cuts to the why of the program like this. I've been going into Milan Federal Correctional Facility for the last several months to facilitate the Art of Reentry curriculum to the men there. And we just did our post-cohort evaluations. One of the last questions we asked was, what aspects of the training did you find most valuable and impactful? To which one gentleman answered, quote, hearing and witnessing the actual caring for me, specifically, and my future. It's very powerful to feel that there are people out there who truly care about what happens for me, unquote. Most people feel uncared for when they are incarcerated. Even with family and friends, those fond feelings are often tethered to being a burden. Prison is designed to punish and sequester, meaning it is designed to make you feel separate and less than. It does what it's designed to do. This feeling usually continues once released. When seeking employment, housing, even education, it is common practice to ask, have you been convicted of a felony? And then legally hold an honest answer against them, denying them basic necessities. What you all did last year with Rising Hope for Housing, whether you fully knew it or not, was what we did for that gentleman in Milan. You told people who have been told they're not good enough to live in Ann Arbor, that someone cares about them. You've told them that there's a chance they can put their life back together. You've told them that they have paid their debt and their well-being matters. I want you to think about something. I hope that you have the courage to continue investing in our communities in such a way, because after serving 27 years for a bank robbery, I could be any of your neighbors, whether I'm in the house next door to you or forced to sleep on the park on the corner. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Matt Bossert.
Hi, my name is Matt Bossart. I live at 615 West Huron Street, and I'm a PhD student. I study the electric power system. 2 weeks ago, I also attended the mentioned town hall event, which was put on by both the Office of Sustainability and Ann Arbor for Public Power. The purpose of this event was to educate the public about both the Sustainable Electric Utility, or SEU, and a Municipal Electric Utility, or MEU. The purpose was to discuss how these two options are different, but also to see how they can be complementary. At this very event, both sides expressed that one promising potential path to help the city reach their climate goals is to first establish an SEU and then eventually transition this entity to a full MEU. I'm here to voice my concern over the specific language which is being proposed for an amendment to the city charter as part of a ballot proposal for the SEU. The language specifying that the SEU will be opt-in, fee-based, and only deliver renewable energy is simply overly restrictive and specifically excludes an MEU, which, if it were to be established, as the sole load-serving utility would not be opt-in by definition. Given the discussion I heard 2 weeks ago, this is exactly the type of amendment to the charter that the city should hope to avoid, one that is overly specific and will require additional work down the line in order to amend the charter again, if the decision to pursue municipalization is decided upon. I believe that there are plenty of other means to educating voters on the specifics of the SEU, but these restrictions should not be in the city charter. I want to conclude by saying that the path to municipalization is hard enough already. We're going up against DTE, which is a powerful corporation. The city needs to carefully consider the long-term implications of each step in this process and not make it any harder than it needs to be. I believe that revising the language is a perfect opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carl Barton. Carl Barton. Our next speaker is Henry Herskovitz.
Good evening. In 5th grade, we were taught that there were 5 basic questions newspaper articles had to answer. Who, what, where, why, and when. Why is often omitted in historical events, and the Holocaust, as presented to Ann Arbor students, either omits or distorts this basic question. From the text supplied by the Ann Arbor Board of Education, we read, the Nazis claimed that all non-Aryan peoples, especially Jewish people, were inferior. This is a dishonest claim. In his book, Unfinished Victory, British author Sir Arthur Bryans writes that although Jews represented less than 1% of the German population, they controlled 57% of the metal trade, 22% of grain, and 39% of textile trade. More than 50% of the Berlin Chamber of Commerce was Jewish, as were an amazing 1,200 of the 1,500 members of the German Stock Exchange. During the Weimar Republic, the average income of Jews was 3 times that of non-Jews. These facts, and many more, fly directly into the face of the charge that Jews were somehow inferior. They clearly weren't, but fits into the false narrative that National Socialists target Jews because of who they were rather than what they did. We see that today in Gaza. Hamas is similarly blamed for targeting Jews as Jews, rather than resisting the 75-year-old genocide of Palestine by the Jewish state. So what's the real answer to why Jewish people were targeted by National Socialists? Peter Winter supplies us with clues in his book, The 6 Million, Fact or Fiction. He states that Jews in Weimar Germany were associated with extreme capitalist exploitation. Benton Bradbury enlightens us further in his book, The Myth of German Villainy. In it, he explains how Jews were the architects of the Versailles Treaty, which brought financial ruin to post-war Germany, and reminded readers that it was Jewish Zionists who brought the U.S. into the Great War and sealed Germany's fate. It makes more sense to understand these reasons, explaining German fear and distrust of the Jews living within its borders, than it does to merely claim that Jews were hated simply because of who they were. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Roger Curson.
Good evening. My name is Roger. I am a homeowner on the west side of Ann Arbor and a ratepayer for DTE going back 25 years. And I'm here to talk about the utility issue. I'm here because I don't want to breathe wildfire smoke again next summer. I read in the paper today that the California utility grid was 100% renewable for 30 of the past 38 days. California ain't better than us. If they can do it, so can we. And I want to address the MEU and SEU utilities some other speakers have mentioned. And first, by appreciating, I work in communications. I've worked on a lot of environmental campaigns. Progress isn't easy, and I want to appreciate how far we've come with community-based groups and the leadership of the council here. Putting climate on the ballot, putting our money where our mouth is, passing a millage was huge. And I know as in politics, not easy to ask the voters for a tax increase. Appreciate your leadership. Appreciate the leadership of including the feasibility study for municipalization in the budget this year for the phase 2. I think that's hugely important. And I think the SEU that's being discussed, that as I understand it, will clear some log jams and obstacles to more widespread adoption of solar power is a terrific idea. But what would not be terrific, as previous speakers have referenced, if we clear the log jam there, but put log jams in front of the municipal utility. And I think what's important for council to hear, and you will hear tonight and surface at the Energy Commission, is there's not alignment at this point as with all the stakeholders as to what that best language is to put in the charter. Things like opt-in and fee-for-service don't sound bad in and of themselves, but if that's not how you legally or accurately describe a universal utility. And I think the mayor and council can play a really important role at this stage of the process in finding out where that alignment is off and how we can fix that so that we can move forward the way we all want to with carbon-free electric utility. Look, this issue is being very closely observed. It has implications not just here, but for other communities if we can set this example and make real progress on the climate. I don't know about you, but every time I open the Observer, I'm thinking, you know, we started a campaign for public power and we're supporting local journalism, because here's another full-page ad from DTE they paid for about we're going to be so clean, so green, the cleanest in history. But let's be clear. The minute we slow down or take our foot off the accelerator, DTE will put its foot on the brake. And without, and I think it's great that we're funding this feasibility study, without a clear alternative that the people can take back this franchise, progress on renewable energy is going to be very, very difficult. So it's great the feasibility study is in the budget. I urge you to support that, and then to fly spec this language and find out how we can get that aligned and work together for carbon-free power in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Marissa Mercurcio.
Marissa Mercutio on Zoom, phone number ending in 334. Press star 6 to unmute your phone.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello. Okay, great. My name is Marissa Mercurio. I'm an Ann Arbor resident, and I'm calling for many of the same reasons that previous speakers have talked about prior to me. I am a member of Ann Arbor for Public Power, and I'm calling to voice my support for a municipally owned public utility. I believe that the language in the proposed sustainable energy utility it needs to be revised for, the same reasons that those have spoken before me. I'm concerned about the opt-in, and I'm concerned about the finances, and I want to ensure that the language is revised so that a MEU is possible either right now or in the future. And I recognize that, everyone has sort of said a lot of things along the same lines with a little bit more expertise than me, so I'll keep it short. But I also want to acknowledge that I'm really happy about the Phase 2 feasibility study moving forward, and I hope that we can continue to have a collaborative, working relationship on these topics in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Milton Baker.
Hi, my name is Milt Baker, and I live at 628 Green Road in Ann Arbor, and I want to make some comments on the SEU ballot proposal. Just as some background, I happen to have solar in my house and battery backup, and I use it to charge an EV, and I only say that because I've seen the power of this technology, and it's really fantastic, and I 100% support the SEU. And with adoption, we're going to drive the price of these things down. But the question I have is, the consultants has told us that the SEU will help Ann Arbor to get to about, be able to generate about 10% of Ann Arbor's electrical use. So how are we going to get to the other 90%? Well, we're going to do that with something like an MEU. And I think that, that what I'm worried about is that, as other people have said, the budget, the proposal actually precludes the use of an MEU. So on the one hand, we're funding a study that is going to look at the feasibility of an MEU. On the other hand, we're talking about a ballot proposal that actually goes in the opposite direction and will not allow there to be an MEU. Others have talked about why that is, the opt-in provision, renewables, and fee-based. I don't want to talk about that, but I just want to ask you, does it make sense to think that way, that when I go around and I ask people, why in the world would we not write the ballot proposal so it could accommodate both? The answer I get is, well, we're going to do one, and then down the road we'll do a second one. And does that make sense to you? I mean, it's sort of like if you're going to build a house and you know you might expand in 5 years, what are you going to do? You're going to put in some infrastructure so it makes it very easy to ease into that. So my call to action for this council is, I think you should demand that this proposal, this ballot proposal, is written so it could accommodate both. So we can do an SEU. If it turns out that the MEU is something that's feasible, then at that point in time, we can roll up our sleeves and just roll into that. So thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kathy Griswold. Kathy Griswold. Our next speaker is Greg Woodring.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor and Council. My name is Greg Woodring. I live at 1012 West Cross, and I'm the president of Ann Arbor for Public Power. I'd like to come here and reiterate what so many other people have said already today and say that, first of all, I'm very happy and excited by the fact that the Phase 2 feasibility study is within the city budget, and I look forward to the results of that and moving forward with this exciting and necessary work. I was one of the speakers in the town hall that was referenced earlier in this meeting, and I left that feeling a strong sense of collaboration and hope for future work with the city. I understand that some of our pushback here might be slightly uncomfortable. I'm sure that a lot of work went into crafting the city charter amendment language, and it may feel non-collaborative for us to be providing this pushback. And I'd like to say that that is not our intention. We're have every desire and intention to work with you. We want to see the city's goals succeed. We want to see an SEU succeed. We are simply asking that the SEU charter language be written in such a way that it would not require further amendment in order to allow for a municipal utility to be created. We understand why the language has opt-in provisions, the 100% renewable provision, and the fee-based provision. However, I will point out that there are many other aspects of an SEU that are not in the city charter language. Those aspects will be fleshed out through a city ordinance after the fact. Those aspects that we are calling out, this opt-in, fee-based, and renewable energy provision, could be in that ordinance instead. We can write that language in such a way that it is able to encompass both, and that is simply all we are asking for. So we hope that we can work together collaboratively moving forward and continue this strong spirit of collaboration as we move towards our shared goal of 100% renewable power for the city of Ann Arbor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is John Walker.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for your service. My name is John Walker. I'm a member of A Brighter Way. As you heard earlier, that it is an incredible institution and it provides useful and meaningful service to returning citizens. Much of what you heard tonight involved me directly and specifically. I am a returning citizen. I served 46 years in the Michigan Department of Correction. I am a beneficiary of the Blue and White House on Washington. I am the hands that help shovel the snow. I wasn't here in the summertime, so I haven't cut any grass. But my interest and concern here is for the support of the house, of Rising Hope housing. In particular because if you can imagine doing as much time as I did and then being displaced in a way, in a manner where I don't fit anywhere, one of the benefits of organizations like A Brighter Way, they embrace me. And one of the reasons they embrace me, and you heard earlier, is because of the 144 years of incarcerated service in that establishment. And because that's true, when we reach back out to those who are similarly situated, the value of that connection is priceless. I'm here to ask you. Well, first of all, I'm here to thank you for all that you've done for institutions, for organizations, for agencies that help returning citizens. Without you, I'm uncertain of where we would be positioned. But incredibly, and in closing, I'd like to say this, I am confident in your advanced planning and actions towards this issue. We all understand that collective action is key to driving positive change. Therefore, your continued support of the Rising Hope for Housing program and A Brighter Way to provide social support and service connections best serves Washtenaw County and justice impacted citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Margaret Goodley.
Margaret Gooden? Margaret Goodley, phone number 942. Press star 6 to unmute your phone. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello,
Can
we
you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, greetings. My name is Margaret Goodley, and I am speaking in regards to the upcoming proposed development at 2525 Ann Arbor Saline Road. I am asking that when this proposal come up for approval, that the City Council reject a change in rezoning for this proposed development from office to residential. The developers would like to build a very expensive 5-story monthly 225-unit apartment in an area that is already impacted with multiple approved and pending apartment and hotel development within a 1 to 3 mile zone area. This area is near I-94. It is heavily impacted by traffic daily and worse during football season. All of these developments are occurring within 1 to 3 miles of residential communities. I live across the street from one of 2 residential communities on Oak Brook. There's another residential community right across the street on Ann Arbor Saline. Down the street are various senior living homes, as well as another residential area. This has the potential to be nothing more than a rental for upcoming sporting events. So I'm asking the City Council to please don't change the zoning from office to residential, to save the neighborhood and to keep the traffic the worst that it is already. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is James Osborne.
Hello. I'm here to speak about something that's not very controversial. And thank you for thank you for waiving the drop-off fee last winter after some storms. I made use of that. Unfortunately, I discovered that the city's website is lacking. I went on the website to see what the standards were because I didn't want to show up with a load of tree branches and be turned away. The website said acceptable drop-off items, grass and leaves, mixed yard trimmings, wood chips, food waste, and branches up to 6 inches. That's it, branches up to 6 inches. Nothing about the length of these branches, and even though the curbside part of the webpage said they have to be shorter than 4 feet. Anyway, I went to the composting yard to find out, and what I learned was that the branches don't have to be shorter than 4 feet. They can be 10 or 11 feet as long as they're under 6 inches. But they also accept logs. The logs can be up to 12 inches in diameter as long as they're shorter than 2 feet. But that was not on the webpage. It's very beneficial to be able to get rid of logs and to not have to cut things up as much. So I wrote a nice letter to the upper management of the city and explaining this. I wrote the letter on April 18th of 2023, but I never got a response, which was disappointing, nor was the webpage ever fixed satisfactorily. Once again this year, another storm damage, and I have stuff to take to the dump, and I went to the compost yard again to find out what their standards are, because I don't want to be turned away. And they haven't changed, but the webpage hasn't changed either. So what I'm asking is that the city council have the management of the city improve the webpage. It's pretty simple, actually. It shouldn't take very long. To end on a positive note, I think the city parks and pools are excellent, and the highlight of all of that is the Argo Canoe Library and the rapids that they have. I enjoy that quite a bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mojan Savabiasafani.
Hello, Ann Arbor. My name is Dr. Mojgan Savabi Isfahani. and I am running for Ann Arbor City Council in Ward 4. Currently, so far, I am the only one that's on the ballot. I'm the only candidate on the ballot. Having spoken to hundreds of people on Ann Arbor streets, I can safely tell you that this mayor, Mayor Taylor, and his city council are not a favorite of Ann Arbor. Ann Arborites recognize that this mayor and his city council have miserably failed to provide us with affordable housing. Ann Arbor recognizes that this mayor and his city council have failed to clean up the Gelman contamination plume. Ann Arbor recognizes that this city council, this mayor, have done nothing to increase minimum wage in this town. We need at least $20 an hour if we are allowing people to have a decent life, a livable life in this town. I am running against this woman here. Her name is Jen Iyer. I call her IDF Iyer because she has accepted finances from old Friends of Israel Defense Forces. I am sure by now you know who IDF is. Israel Defense Forces are the most atrocious terrorist organization in the world today. They have been committing a genocide in Gaza. On average, IDF kills 200 people in Gaza, mostly children and women. With the help, with the silence of this city council, by not passing a simple resolution that says cut off military aid to Israel, they have helped Israel drive people to starvation, they have helped them murder people, and in my opinion, their hands are bloody. Their hands are bloody. We have been asking for a resolution to cut off military aid to Israel for decades, and they have not done it. Throughout those decades, this genocide was ongoing, and I had been talking about it. And this city council has ignored it for a very, very long time, protecting the terrorist Zionist state of Israel. I am here again to ask this city council to do the right thing, do the humane thing, and pass this resolution. After all, Nancy Pelosi and Debbie Dingell have already said, halt weapons transfer to Israel, which is another way of saying cut off military aid to Israel. Israel is the biggest threat to world safety. We have seen that for 192 days at least. Cut off military aid to Israel. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Blaine Coleman.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming, everyone.
For 20 years, we have demanded the resolution against military aid to Israel. And now, after Israel has murdered over 40,000 Palestinians just in the last 6 months, even Congress members Dingell and Pelosi have said, yeah, cut off the military aid to Israel. Why on earth can't you? Why on earth can't this city council do at least that? At least approve the resolution against military aid to Israel. But city council is still defending Israel and still defending the Holocaust that Israel is committing against the Palestinian people, 40,000 dead. When we come in here and we demand the resolution against military aid to Israel, Council member Aisha Ghazi Edwin raises ugly accusations of anti-Semitism, and she has succeeded in squashing that resolution against military aid with those ugly accusations. All she had to do was raise her hand and say, yeah, let's approve this thing. Instead, Council member Ghazi Edwin went on the attack and acted like the most servile of servants to the apartheid state of Israel. That is a lifelong shame on Council member Ghazi Edwin, a lifelong shame. In my opinion,
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin, you are up to your eyeballs in Palestinian blood, and so is the rest of this city council. You have abused your governmental power to smother the resolution against military aid to Israel. You know, when I was a kid, I wondered how on earth can holocausts be allowed to happen? How can slavery be allowed to happen? How can racism be allowed to happen? And now I look in the eyes of this city council and I know exactly how it happens. I tell this city council again, overcome your instinct to commit racist violence against the Palestinian people. Overcome that instinct. Stop being the most servile of servants to the genocidal state of Israel. Approve the resolution against military aid to Israel. Don't help Israel murder another 40,000 Palestinians. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Our next speaker is Ellen Johnson.
Good evening. On the last speaker, I'm sure you're probably rather happy about that. Mr. Mayor and city members of City Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak again. Ellen Johnson here, President of the Board of Directors of Pittsfield Village Condominium Association. I was here about a month ago and to speak on behalf of the village residents and also our landscape contractor. And my purpose tonight is to make clear that the board and the village residents are very much in favor of the ordinance banning these gas-powered leaf blowers. We want it to be a success in the city, and we want it to be a success in the village. To be a success, though, we need your help. Superior, our contractor, is a small business. I know the city is very interested in supporting small businesses. The cost of compliance at this time to service the contract for our 64 acres is pretty high, and it's going to have to be passed down to the residents, which is going to be a double burden, really, to small businesses like Superior and also to our residents. So the best help, we think, could take a couple of forms. I mean, we talked about a variance about a month ago, or an exception for condo communities like ours, which would be really helpful, and also for landscape contractors, it would be helpful for them as well. We'd also like to see soon, very soon, a robust purchasing program that would be designed with landscape contractors, with their input on what works in different settings, and that would provide some guidance as well as some good funding for purchase of the equipment. The variance could sunset once contractors are properly equipped. It doesn't have to be there long term. So we make these asks, again, knowing that options may be limited, but we're confident that a happy solution exists for all parties, you folks, and our needs as well. So we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there communications today from council? Councilmember Adina.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. First, I just wanted to address the comments from Mr. Osborne. I know we had an opportunity to chat at the beginning of the meeting, and I have shared your concerns along with the staff as well. I'm sorry that it took this long. As I think you heard in Mr. Mahoney's budget, we are continuing to work on improving customer service, and so hopefully this is an area where we can continue to improve. But thank you for coming and sharing that with us, and hopefully we can get that fixed for you. I also wanted to share that for residents in Ward 3, Councilmember Ghazi Edwin and I have a coffee hour coming up on Sunday, April 21st at 10 a.m. at the Mallett's Creek branch of the Ann Arbor District Library. It will be an opportunity to meet our new police chief, who will be joining us as a special guest so that he can meet the community as well. And so we would welcome your attendance there. Thank you.
Councilmember Cornell.
Thank you.
I wanted to let folks know that Bloomfest is happening on May 11th downtown. It's a celebration of spring. There's over 30 Main Street businesses who are offering giveaways, all of your favorite places, and this will be one of the first weekends that our city streets are closed to allow for pedestrians to replace cars on Main Street, which is really exciting, so I hope everyone can come out. And then just as a sort of public awareness note, the Washtenaw Intermediate School District Science Olympiad is this Saturday all day at Pioneer High School, which happens to collide with a football game at the big house right across the street. So it'll be very busy in that general area that serves the entire Washtenaw School District, not just Ann Arbor. So lots and lots of teams competing. So if you're planning to head out in that area, please be patient, watch for pedestrians of all different types, and be safe. Thank you.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin.
Thank you, Mayor. So firstly, I want to thank Ellen Johnson and the Pittsfield condos for coming again today. And I just want to assure you that we've heard you, and Councilmember Radina and I are working on this issue. And, you know, we had introduced a companion resolution with the leaf blower ordinance called Resolution to Launch Educational and Engagement Initiatives in Support of Transition to All Electric Leaf Maintenance. And the purpose of that resolution was both to launch an educational campaigns to engage business owners and residents, as well as a bulk buy program. And OSI is working on this. They've also just launched a website they wanted me to share. So please go to the OSI website and you can keep up on the updates. Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Briggs.
Thanks. Just wanted to announce that Ward 5 listening hours are this coming Sunday. They're at a slightly different time and location than usual. They'll be at 3 p.m. on Sunday at Sweetwater's on Washington Street.
Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. Yesterday, I attended the Catherine Street Development groundbreaking ceremony. It was a beautiful event, and as someone who grew up in the area, went to Forsyth, ate at DeLong's, had lots of friends that lived on the Old West Side, went to the community center. I do want to mention and say that I do share the concern about gentrification and displacement of Black residents and businesses in Carytown. This has been a long-standing issue, and it's important to acknowledge the community's history. While we can't reverse the past, this project can be an opportunity to move forward in a more inclusive way. I want to thank Administrator Mahoney for securing ongoing funding for the Catherine Street Community Center in the budget. I'm eager to review the details of the allocation. Historically, my community, basically folks that look like me, haven't always felt included by the city. This center represents a hopeful step towards inclusivity, and I look forward to participating in the programs. Thank you.
Further communication from council. Councilmember, I'm sorry, I had Dish, then Watson.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that Councilmember Harrison and I will be having a coffee hour, I think it's next week. It is. It's next week. It's Wednesday the 24th at the Ann Arbor District Library at 6 p.m. We are already halfway through April, folks.
Councilmember Watson.
Join me at my coffee hour this Sunday, April 21st at 3 p.m. at Panera on Washtenaw. Come with questions or comments or just to say hello. I'll be joined by a special guest, City Council candidate for Ward 2, John Malik. Like my colleagues, many of my colleagues around the table actually, yesterday I attended the groundbreaking for 121 Catherine Street, now known as Dunbar Tower. It was a big moment for the Black community, the arts community, Ann Arborites who need support to afford to live here, and all those who want our community to be welcoming and vibrant. When my parents came to Ann Arbor in the late 1970s, the traditionally Black West Side neighborhood in Ann Arbor was already beginning to be gentrified. When I was growing up in the 90s, outside of Bethel AME and Second Baptist churches, it was hard for me to identify a physical place that clearly belonged to the Black community in Ann Arbor. I'm proud that Dunbar Tower and the community space within it that the Community Leadership Council has dubbed the Lavender Room will be just the place I was looking for. Thank you.
Councilmember Iyer.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a brief comment about, a proposed project in my ward, the 2525 Ann Arbor Saline Road project. This is something that we've heard just an unusual amount of feedback about already from the community, both Councilmember Ackman and I, and the planning staff as well. And of course, we heard someone commenting about it tonight. I just want to caution folks, this project has a long way to go before it even comes before planning, before it comes before council. There's a lot still to be learned about it, and I've spoken with the developer about their plans to do more outreach to the community, the condos that are nearby, so that people can really get a better understanding of exactly what it is and what the impact might be. But I wanted to make the point as well that I do think that this really points to a big problem that we have in our current system with how we time our public engagement around site plans. And for me, this has been a really good lesson in why we really need to make the changes that we outlined at our last meeting in the series of economic development resolutions that we passed. Because the residents, certainly at the community engagement meeting that I attended, were receiving information that just feels incomplete at this point. And so I can certainly understand, the tendency to jump to conclusions, but I am hoping that folks will just kind of take a breath, let's learn more about it, and then we can go from there. Thanks.
Councilmember Song.
So I'm sure folks are conflicted as to whether they should attend and watch our meeting tonight or attend a community session that the public schools are also hosting tonight. I think we've all heard from constituents who are really concerned about the budget shortfall in our public schools. Again, a reminder, we are separate entities represented by different electeds, but we all want our public schools to succeed. I was really thankful to have a Zoom meeting with School Board President Feaster, U of M, Senator Jeff Irwin, Representative Jason Morgan, Commissioner Andy Labar couldn't make it, but he was updated, and Councilmember Aisha Ghazi Edwin. And the discussion basically was, what can we do to help? And how can we ensure that our schools succeed? And how can we shore up confidence in that future students coming to our public schools will receive the same excellent education that our own children have. I am the mother of a proud Huron River Rat graduate, and I would love to see future generations experience that same quality education and love and support from our teachers. A good reminder from Representative Morgan and Senator Irwin was that the county also went through a budget shortfall not too long ago, a $10 million budget shortfall, and they were able to come through it. So just a message that, every single one of us has heard from folks, from families who are really, really worried. And I think we're all hands on deck and looking to the leadership of the school board to really direct us as to how we can best help. I also attended today the Michigan League for Public Policy's Policy Forum and represented our work here on the Guaranteed Income Program alongside Dr. Mona, who is implementing a similar program for mothers in Flint, Dr. Lou Schaefer from the U of M Poverty Solutions Center, and Kim Trent, the Deputy Director for Leo. I was really proud to be able to say that Ann Arbor, using ARPA funding, came out to say that we are trying our best to support families who are struggling in a very expensive town with very limited housing. And as we approve more housing, which will bring more revenue to our Affordable Housing Fund, and as this program rolls out so that vulnerable families have the cash assistance they need, this should be a demonstration of how our community cares for folks who are really struggling after the pandemic and continue to struggle. And I hope other communities can also embrace this as a priority. So I thank all of my colleagues for voting for that in favor, and previous council too, who rallied around that.
Further communication from council? For my part, I would just like to thank Administrator Mahoney and our departed CFO, Ms. Prashan, and everyone who works with them and for them, and so Jason with them for the great deal of hard and excellent work that has gone on in order to put together the proposed 2025 budget. To refresh the recollection of the public, we will have a public hearing with respect to that budget at our next meeting, that is to say, the 6th of May, and then the budget as a whole will be considered at our second meeting in May 20. The administrator's budget, if it is amended, it will be amended. If it is passed, it will be passed. If it's not passed, it'll be accepted. That's how our system works, and we look forward to that further and fulsome conversation. One point, I know that funding is, of course, important to schools, as has been mentioned. It's important to the city and up and down the line. We do have one piece of funding that comes in through a county millage, the so-called community mental health and public safety millage, which includes a rebate to many jurisdictions throughout Washtenaw County that do already have police services. That rebate is, of course, to make up for the cost to Ann Arbor voters, Ann Arbor taxpayers, of the public safety portion of the county millage. I'll note that the 40-40-20 allocation for county millage monies was a solution that was appropriate and I think, if you'll forgive me, visionary in 2017, but that 2024 is a new era with new needs. And I'll observe further that there has been additional and substantial funding from Ann Arbor voters with respect to climate action and to affordable housing, and that voters have indicated, in my view, and while they've enthusiastic about these functions, there are other functions as well, there are other opportunities as well for funding that do not have currently dedicated sources. With particularity, I'd just like to identify one for my part, and that is an unarmed response program. And while I expect, and I think there absolutely should be, both here at the table and throughout the public, a fair bit of conversation about where any rebate monies might be allocated on a longer-term basis, that an unarmed response program is just the sort of thing for which I think those funds would be appropriate, among others, of course. I'd like to request confirmation of the following appointment that was presented to City Council for consideration at the April 1, 2024 regular session to the Downtown Development Authority. Elizabeth Berry, may I have a motion, please? Moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. We now come to the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Councilmember Medina, second by Councilmember Dish. Discussion of the consent agenda. I believe we have an introduction with respect to C4 from Mr. Leonard.
It's C4.
Not CA4, C4. I just want to hear from him so very badly.
He can help me.
I'm surely he could. Is there any discussion of the consent agenda? Councilmember Song.
For CA1, the closing for the streets for our Memorial Day Parade, this is something that our neighborhood in Ward 2, just a block away from where Chris and I live, or where Chris grew up, has been a tradition since the 1960s, and it's a beloved tradition, a way for folks to come and see a fire truck, meet our officers, hear the mayor present, and also meet a neighborhood association that has rallied behind neighbors in need through everything. I love this neighborhood, and I hope you can come and visit us.
Councilor Dish.
I just want to highlight C3, which will approve a cooperative agreement with the County of Washtenaw and grant $200,000 to the county to expand weatherization assistance programs in the city. This is a really important initiative because weatherization is expensive, and the people whose homes are most in need of it are paying the most per square foot for their energy. Low-income people typically have that are in that situation. So I am so excited to see these extra funds. And if I understood correctly from a staff member yesterday at the Catherine Street groundbreaking, by June on OSI's portal, possibly June 1st, it will be you will be able to apply for this money. So,
Further discussion on the consent agenda? All in favor? Opposed? The consent agenda is approved. We now come to a set of public hearings. Public hearings are opportunities for members of the public to speak to council and the community about the specific subject matter of the public hearing. To speak at a public hearing, you need not have signed up in advance, but your speech must relate to the subject matter of the public hearing, that is to say, the agenda item to which the public hearing relates. Speakers in all instances will have 3 minutes in which to speak, and so please pay close attention to the time clock. Or the clerk will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time has expired. When your time has expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Public hearing number 1, resolution to release roadway rights at 2845 South State Street. Is there anyone in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Mayor, I don't see any callers online with their hands up.
Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 2, resolution to approve vacation of a portion of East Eisenhower Parkway at 2845 South State Street and conveyance to the adjacent property owner subject to public utility and sidewalk easements. Is there anyone in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Mayor, I don't see anyone online for this hearing.
Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. We have before us the regular session meeting minutes of April 1, 2024. May I have a motion, please, to approve these minutes? Moved by Councilmember Watson, seconded by Councilmember Radina. Discussion of the minutes. All in favor? All opposed? The minutes are approved. C1, an ordinance to amend Section 263 of Chapter 29, Water Rates of Title II of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor. Moved by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion of C1. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. C2, an ordinance to amend Section 269 of Chapter 29, Stormwater Rates of Title II of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor. Moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Briggs. Discussion of C2. Councilmember Song.
Not a real discussion, but just to note that for folks who are looking to install rainwater gardens, you can actually get a stormwater credit. It's great.
Further discussion of C2? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. C3, an ordinance to amend Section 264 of Chapter 29, Sewer Rates of Title II of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor. Moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin. Discussion, please, of C3. All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. C4, an ordinance to amend Chapter 55, zoning, rezoning of .65 acres from TWP Township District to R1D, Single Family Dwelling District, 3701-3713 Riverside Drive. May I have a motion, please? Moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Councilmember Watson. Discussion, please, of C4. Mr. Leonard.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Brett Leonard. I'm the planning manager. We had one question that I'd like to share and respond to. Application of the R1D and R1E district may require a greater degree of services than the less dense single-family zoning districts. To assure health and safety and welfare, any future R1D and R1E zoning area should be contingent upon the availability or provision of adequate public services to serve the higher densities permitted by that district, in addition to other pertinent planning considerations from our UDC. In the staff report and responses to previous council member questions, I see that there is no service besides sanitary sewer service. So it sounds like in any scenario, utilities will need to be run to these annex parcels. Isn't it more efficient and economical to create service for 6 homes, R1D for this plot, instead of 3 R1B for this plot? The city standard specifications are actually a standard of service for any single-family zone property, so whether the property is zoned R1A all the way up to R1E would be the same specifications for water infrastructure. Depending on the development approach, utilities may need to be run to this site. For example, a waiver could be considered by the city to provide water by use of a well without the extension of water infrastructure to this site. This would likely be most effective with a lower pattern of density of development. If water infrastructure were to be extended, I agree, more homes would help to amortize the substantial cost of that infrastructure over multiple homes. For stormwater runoff, a lower density of pattern of development would likely enable stormwater to be addressed through on-site measures without the extension of infrastructure to the site. As density increases in this area, more impervious surface would likely increase the need for construction of stormwater infrastructure to serve the sites when it could no longer be accommodated on site. Happy to address any further questions.
Thank you. Further discussion of C4? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. DS1, resolution to release roadway rights of 2845 South State Street, moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Councilmember Watson. Discussion of DS1. All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. The 11 council members present, all voting in the affirmative, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement. DS2, resolution to approve vacation of a portion of East Eisenhower Parkway at 2845 South State Street and conveyance to the adjacent property owner, subject to public utility and sidewalk easements. Moved by Councilmember Briggs, seconded by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion, please, of DS2. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved with 11 council members present, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement. DC1, resolution to recommend approval of issuance of Downtown Development District liquor license to Uplift Ann Arbor LLC, located at 210 South 1st Street. Moved by Councilmember Briggs, seconded by Councilmember Ackman. Discussion, please, of DC1. Councilmember Dish.
I would just like to say, as a member of the Liquor Commission, that this is a really exciting license to be offering. This will be a DDA license for Uplift Ann Arbor, and Uplift Ann Arbor will be Ann Arbor's first LGBTQ+ bar in almost 4 years since the Out Bar closed. This will truly be a vital physical community space for entertainment and also for meeting space and community events, which is also exciting. Uplift Ann Arbor will be a truly unique venue that fosters a sense of safety and belonging to those who feel marginalized in other areas, in other spaces, but it will also be welcome to any of us who want to frequent a space that champions diversity, understanding, and acceptance. And it will have everything you could want, non-alcoholic things as well as beer, wine, seltzers, standard cocktails, craft, and regular non-alcoholic beverages, and hot food. They will partner with the Cirque Bar as a food vendor to provide a full menu of hot food. So you can go there and enjoy yourself in every way possible.
Further discussion, Councilmember Adina.
Thank you, and thank you for that, Councilmember Dish, for the eloquent summary of the new business. I'm really excited about this personally. I've had a couple of conversations with the folks that they're hoping to establish this in our downtown, and as somebody who spent a lot of time in Braun Court and at Arbor, I continue to hear from members of the community who just desperately miss that space, that gathering space, that place for community in our downtown. I'm really excited to see this moving forward, and I just wish Uplift all of the success, and look forward to visiting at some point in the future as we continue to gather as a community. So thank you.
Councilmember Briggs.
Just want to add that this fabulous new establishment is coming to Ward 5.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. DC2, resolution to revise and amend the list of approved participating establishments in the Main Street Ann Arbor Social District. Moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Councilmember Cornell. Discussion, please, of DC2. Councilmember Cornell.
Also, this is in Ward 5. To remind folks, I mentioned earlier about the Summer Streets program starting May 2nd. The streets downtown will be closed from 4 p.m. Thursdays to 6 a.m. Mondays. This resolution allows for our social district to exist within those boundaries during that time, which basically means that you can visit our restaurants and bars downtown and travel within the district with whatever beverage, non-alcoholic, alcoholic, that you might like in an approved container, which you can get from that merchant. It's really been a huge success on Main Street because folks are more likely to go into a restaurant and then go to someplace to shop or, enjoy more of Main Street because they have the mobility to do it because the streets are closed and the businesses are excited to participate. So I'm really enthusiastic to see this go through. And I would be remiss if not mentioning on Thursday nights there will be live music downtown again all throughout that summer social district period. So it's a great time to come downtown, and this certainly helps our businesses.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. DC3, resolution to authorize acquisition of easements for the Nixon Carter Improvement Project. Moved by Councilmember Watson, seconded by Councilmember Song. Discussion, please, of DC3. Councilmember Watson.
I'm excited to see this on the agenda tonight. This has been a long time coming in Ward 2. The engagement on the Nixon Corridor Improvement Project started in 2017, but we're finally getting to the implementation phase. I wanted to remind residents of the area that if you Google Nixon Road Corridor Improvement, you can subscribe on the city's website for notifications about both, the city road closures, updates on the projects, and, my experience with the Earhart project was really good in terms of the timing of those updates from staff, and that project went really well, so I hope that people will subscribe to get updates. And then the other, my only other point on it is that there will be a public engagement session in May, so stay tuned. I'll share out information about that as that gets finalized, but look forward to a public engagement session on design and feedback on the timing of this project.
Councilmember Song.
I'll just speak really briefly to how this corridor has been such a painful area for folks along this stretch. But early on when I campaigned, I do remember telling folks that my most favorite roundabout in town, which I feel like is an essential question for all council members, what is your favorite roundabout, is on DeVeron and Nixon. And when this came in, moms who lived in Ward 2, including myself, went on joy rides and that roundabout. We love that roundabout. Let's have more roundabouts. And I will say that I know the residents have been very patient with us and waiting for this to be funded, to be planned, and have community engagement around it. I know I've had emails around like, why didn't we use ARPA funding to make this happen more quickly? And why would you fund something like guaranteed income instead? I think with every budget season and whenever we have revenue come our way, we have to make these difficult decisions. But once it's in the capital improvement plan, it's planned, and that's a really good step, first step. and I'm really excited to see this come into fruition finally, and I look forward to Joy writing the next roundabout with Councilmember Watson.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved with 11 council members present, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement. Do we have the pleasure of a closed session today, Ms. Kaur? May I have a motion, please, to approve the clerk's report of communications, petitions, and referrals? Moved by Councilmember Dish, second by Councilmember Watson. Discussion of the clerk's report. All in favor? Opposed? The clerk's report is approved. Do we have communications today from our city attorney?
No, thank you.
Having completed public comment on the upfront, there is no public comment overflow. May I have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin, second by Councilmember Harrison. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned.